Peace, BIO family. I'm your host, Jabari Lamb, and this is another video of the BAIO News. And in this topic, we're going to be talking about the ECO currency. The ECO currency is what is supposed to be the universal single West African currency for Ecowas, which is the Economic Community of West African States. Currently, as of right now, it has not gone officially into, actual effect, but they have drafted a resolution and there are politicians, activists, and academics studying about why the echo should be the official currency instead of the CFA franc. So, for those who do not know, the CFA franc is a French created African currency started in 1949 for French colonies. And basically, these countries that use the CFA franc, they have to put like half of their reserves into French banks. It's pegged to the euro. It doesn't really have, it doesn't really function as for economic growth. It's more just there for quote unquote stability. Um, and many of the countries that use it, it's really not worth anything. I mean, once you leave the francophone zone that use the CFA franc, it's pretty much worthless. So the CFA franc has two regions to it: the West African franc and the Central African franc, and they comprise themselves of at least 15 countries. The 15 countries are Cameroon, Senegal, Niger, Mali, Ivory Coast, Gabon, Togo, Benin, Equatorial Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Chad, Republic of Congo, and Central African Republic. Those are the 15 countries that use the CFA franc. Now, there has been, an increasing push to get rid of the CFA franc. One of those people who is leading that is economist Keiko Nabuko, who explains the importance of getting rid of the CFA franc. So he basically talks about it hasn't really generated any inter-community, exchange or increased inter-regional trade. The CFA franc is really acting as a barrier for exports. It serves as a tax on exports and a subsidy on imports because since the CFA franc is pegged to the euro, it is too strong of a currency. And therefore, you have a trade situation where there's always a trade deficit. In addition, countries are fighting for weaker currencies. And the real interest rates of many of these CFA franc countries is 12, 13, 14, percent. And whereas the Eurozone, people who use the euro, is close to zero. The CFA franc is not concerned about economic growth, like I mentioned before. It's about price stability. And bringing in this pan-African currency, the ECO, for West Africa, that will be for West Africans, by West Africans, could facilitate trade and financial exchanges, reduce cost of transactions between countries, and increase competition. It could encourage industrialization, development of the private sector, employment of the youth, and women. It could help start companies and startups. So that's the benefit of using the Echo instead of using the CFA Franc, because the CFA Franc, like they mentioned in this article, and the article is on Africa News, so I will put this in the links in the description of where I got this information, and you can go read some of these articles. But Africa News basically brought up how the CFA Franc represents the Francophone's economy's ills: lack of vision, the absence of government is worthy of the name, the difficulty in understanding that development is endogamous, which means it occurs within, and financing, of the internal market. And so recently in Togo, there was a conference that dealt with talking about of getting rid of the CFA franc and replacing it with the ECHO. There were 200 guests that gathered in Lomé, and the hopes was to replace the CFA franc with the ECO. It had politicians, activists, and civil society organizations. The meeting had two panels. So one of the panels was bringing together economists with an economic model, and then the second was panel discussions with those intended. So those are two panels. Notable people were, like I said before, Kako Nabuku, but you had two people who supported the CFA franc for whatever reason: Lionel Zinzu of Benin and Michael Khalif of Togo. Three activists that have not been allowed to leave their countries are Seyu Dailin Dayu, he's from Guinea; Ousmane Sonko, Senegal; and Susei Masra, and that's in Chad. So, my personal opinion is that the CFA franc should be removed. It should be the Echo. We should have a currency that is in Africa, that was printed by Africans in African cities. It could be in Abuja, it could be in Lagos, it could be in Accra, it could be in Abidjan, it could be in Monrovia, it can be anywhere in West Africa, but it needs to be led by West Africans to take their matters in their own hands. Enough with this always about price stability. I understand price stability is important, but to those two activists supporting the CFA Franc, the countries in the Francophone region are some of the poorest, if not poorest, countries on the planet. Niger is poor, Central African Republic is poor, Mali, Guinea-Bissau, Equatorial Guinea is extremely corrupt, even though it's rich, but it's extremely underdeveloped. This is what the CFA Franc has created, and we should not be using this. It's letting that capital leave Africa to go finance other regions of the world when it should be working specifically for Africans. Now, of course, with the echo, the country that's going to be the most dominant is Nigeria. Nigeria having a GDP like 500 billion expected to be this year. It will be the dominant power dealing with economics in the Ecowas region. But Nigeria maybe needs to take that mantle and lead the way, and help facilitate economic growth within these regions, so that we can have a more stronger market. Because West Africa is the largest region that has the most amount of people and the highest GDP. So I just want to bring y'all up to date from this. You can get this information on Africa News, as well as African Post, as well as Nairametrics. So once again, this is Jabari Lamb. Peace, fam.